What's up, family? Welcome back to another episode of the One Fourth Careers podcast. I'm Xavier, your host, and I'm here with Will. Will graduated from Winston Salem State University with a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science with a concentration in public policy in 2020. Now, Will works as a coordinator of employer relations at Winston Salem State University. Will, how's it going, man? Welcome to the pod.
Thanks, man. Glad to be here. Glad to be in this space and imparting some knowledge. So thanks for the invite. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, sir. I'm super excited to have you here, man. I was really excited when we kind of crossed paths a few years ago, man, and it's been great. Thankfully, in this new age of technology, you can keep up with a lot of the great things people are doing. It's obviously for the positive end of the spectrum, man, and super proud of the work you've been doing. But understanding where you are in your career, man, I was like, I got to get this guy on the pod. I know you have some nuggets. I know you've made a lot of intentional moves that I think will be great for people to hear about. So everybody listening in, I'm not gonna spoil it. Y'all about to hear about it, but I kind of had to let my guy know, like, we about to have some good stuff going on, man. So tell me, man, how's your summer going? How's everything going for you so far this year?
This summer has been different from other summers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in grad school now, so juggling working in higher ed and doing grad school. I took one class this summer to ease into, getting back into college and everything. So I'm working on
Yeah.
my master's right now. That's taking up a lot of my summers, but also had some downtime to hang out with family and friends and reconnect with old classmates. So it's been good all around.
Yeah, definitely sounds like a productive one. I hope you're taking care of yourself with all the things that you're doing. Cool, man. Well, let's get started with you sharing a little bit with the audience, some of your background.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, one of my main identities I always like to, introduce to folks is that I'm an immigrant. I came to America at the age of 6 from Liberia, West Africa. For those who might not know, Liberia was ravaged by war from 97 up until 2003. So on and off, turmoil in the nation and everything. We came to America in search of greener pastures. So I came to America and really excelled in spaces of academia, which led to me, getting a lot of different opportunities to grow from elementary school to high school, being a part of different organizations in Charlotte, where I resided for most of my adolescent years up until high school. Transitioned to this good old space called an HBCU. I attended Winston Salem State University, class of 2020. Had the pleasure of doing so many things I never, envisioned for myself. Being that I never really knew what an HBCU was, or even what a PWI was, I knew that I needed to get into college and be a first generation, college graduate. So matriculated through Winston Salem State. After graduating, I ended up landing a job with Facebook, which is now called Meta. Served as a program manager of trust and safety for 3 years, and decided to do a pivot. Being that for those who might follow what the tech world looks like, there's been a lot of volatile layoffs and things like that, and I didn't want to be caught in that, so I decided to pivot and figure out how am I going to get my master's partially paid for, but also still be involved with doing the work of helping others. And I landed at Winston-Salem State, back at my alma mater in North Carolina, of all places. So that's just a little bit of my background. Also pledged, was a fall 2018 initiative of the Mu Epsilon chapter of Omega Psi Phi, root to the good bros. So ended up doing a lot of things in college that also informed me of the individual that I am today. Someone who is focused on being tenacious, being enthused in everything that I do, and applying a passionate lens to things when it comes to helping people in my community, outside of my community, and just, uplifting those around me for the greater good.
Hey, get me hyped, bro. Get me hyped over here. You feel me? Man, y'all check out my guy here, man. I'm so proud of you, bro. And I really appreciate and love that introduction, sharing a lot about your background. Thank you for your openness and your transparency with kind of where you are in your journey, man. And I think it says a lot about you to navigate your journey the way that you have. Very intentional and very open to learning and always looking to maximize opportunities and especially you kind of sharing your background of immigrating to the U.S. and what that experience was like for you. And I know there are so many people who can benefit from hearing that. So you got me lit over here because I'm like, man, I love it. I love the diversity of background. I love your, your testimony, which we'll jump into some more, man. But before we jump into that, man, we have our first segment here called a step back, sports inspired, where we are going to jump into what it means to work in a higher ed. But first, you mentioned a little bit of your upbringing, what that was like immigrating here, and some of your priorities and some of your experiences excelling in the academic environment. Did you have any aspirations of what you wanted to be outside of being a student, of course? But did you have any professional dreams?
Yeah, my professional dreams is going to take me to DC. Before I got the job offer from Meta to work
Yeah.
at Facebook, I actually was on the track to attend GW to receive my public policy degree to enter into working for the government, the federal government, on the level of potentially working for the State Department.
Hmm.
And that was my passion. I wanted to be involved in um, the work in DC when it comes to diplomacy and crafting policies that help when it comes to dealing with developing nations, and how America, being the superpower that it is, will put developing nations in a space and in the driver's seat to gain more than they are taking from America. So that was the plan, right? I always wanted to be in politics in some shape or form. And it wasn't until I went to a conference known as PPIA, Public Policy and International Affairs Program at GW, for a summer stint before I graduated, and fell in love with all things public policy and international affairs. So that was the track that I was on. And, God had other plans for me, right? So ended up shifting, but I still have a passion for that. And I plan on getting back into that after this master's program. So, yeah.
Okay, okay, I love that. Have your mind set on what you want, and you've had some experiences, fortunately, that you really enjoyed, which I think is a call out that hopefully for people who haven't had that experience, that it's out there. Maybe we'll get into some advice that may help people get closer to that passion or that field that really excites them, or at least give you some tips and some optimism for how to stay patient and just trust that that is something that will come to you if you're looking in the right spaces or you have the right mindset. But that is a call out as well, that is something to be really grateful for, is like finding something that really excites you from a academic or professional sense. I know, at least for me, I didn't have that. I didn't have it. I just now am starting to really grow my passion and my interest. It feels like it's been more recent, but over the last 7 years, I've been looking for it. I've been looking for the career field that excites me. The ambitious dreams that feels like an end goal or something professionally to arrive at. So kudos to you for finding that, chasing that, and already being a little bit immersed into public policy as well. So for anyone out there who does research on public policy, who feels that maybe you relate to what Will is kind of referring to, what excites him about it, hopefully through this conversation, there can be some nuggets that hopefully you'll find additional similarities, and maybe even some tips of things to look into. So I know you already mentioned that one program that you're a part of. So you guys check that out. All right. Well, now that you kind of shared a little bit about what you feel that you're moving towards, serving in government, and something that you still are on track to do, which is a first. It's a first that I've had someone say what they wanted to do when they were younger is something that they're actually still on track to go accomplish. So that's cool there. That's a first on the pod. Now, take me back to the home. Take me back to the crib. Take me back to Winston Salem State. You're back on campus. You're working there as a coordinator of employer relations. How would you describe that job and like role responsibilities there?
Yeah, so when it comes to being an employee relations coordinator, it's all about relationships, right? I spent a lot of my years in undergrad cultivating relationships, even in the moment of being in corporate, right? It's important to cultivate relationships. You never know what those relationships to really how you will benefit from those relationships and what can come out of it, right? So as an employee relations person, I'm actively focused on building and maintaining partnerships between the university and employers, right? So working within the internal spot of our university, working with different divisions within the university to make sure that we're working to build our brand image when it comes to ensuring that we have the best and brightest students to put in front of these employers when I'm talking to them. Our external partners, the work that I do with checking in to see what opportunities exist for our students in the forms of internships, fellowships, grad school opportunities, and also full time employment opportunities. I'm in the driver's seat to do that. So I've really been um, practicing what I've always been doing from undergrad to now, just having conversations with people, getting to know what they're interested in doing and how we can be, sort of that connector. So I like to say my job is a lot of connecting, right? Doing a lot of
Yeah.
connecting work to make sure that, okay, this student needs to be plugged in with this organization if they're, let's say, interested in health sciences, right? Or if they're interested in getting into federal government, they need to be plugged in here. So that's what a lot of my day-to-day work looks like, but then also connecting with students, right? And having conversations like letting them know, hey, I'm not that far removed from undergrad. I was in the same spot you were in before, and encouraging them to be okay with not knowing what's next, being okay with being uncomfortable, right? Because when you're uncomfortable, that leads to um, a more better understanding of what growth really is, right?
Yeah.
You have to be in a space of being able to adapt and being fast on your feet. And thinking fast is really important in corporate, as you know. So teaching them those skill sets, preparing them to be in front of potential employers to blow that interview out of the water or out of the park to where they can lead up to be successful. It's just seeing them from the beginning stage to the end as a connector. It makes my job even more valuable to me.
I love that. Now, when you're building those relationships, the work that you just described, what are a lot of the skills you feel are really important for you to thrive or in that role, or skills important for others if they're looking to be in a similar role, if they want to be a connector for an HBCU, for a university, working within higher education in general? What are some skills that are really critical for them to thrive?
Yeah, as an employee relations person, I would say definitely having the ability to story tell, right, is important. As we know, in this day and age, HBCUs have always been a vital part of academics when it comes to minorities, right? Particularly African Americans. And it's important that when you're interfacing with some of these companies who might have not even looked at this hidden gem that exists,
Mhm.
uh, you have to be able to tell your story. And I think one of the important things you need to be able to do is storytell, being able to tell a compelling story to someone who might not have even wanted to invest in your entity that you are a part of, your HBCU for this point. Um, might have not even thought about it, but now because you've been able to establish what storytelling is and you're able to give them a compelling sell on something, they're wanting to do it. I would say second is the ability to use your network, right, to benefit your role. I think those two things are
Mhm.
important. And then finally, the ability to just be able to think fast on your feet. There's a lot of moving parts within higher ed. So many new things are being introduced in terms of what the federal government is saying or what your state government might be saying about being a public institution. There are certain things you can't do or certain things you can't say in terms of using this word that's been around for years, but now people are trying to water it down and say DEI doesn't need to exist. But how do you think a lot of us arrived into some of these spaces that we were in because of DEI work that's been done? So being able to think fast on your feet and pivot when someone says, okay, this needs to be, scratched for something else,
Yeah.
being able to do all those things. So storytelling, being able to use your network, and
Mhm.
then lastly, just being able to think fast on your feet is important.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And, shout out to you and all the other public servants and people working at HBCUs, higher education institutions at large, understanding the impact of recent disruption to DEIA. And a lot of that has been, at many times very discouraging, a little bit dismantling. I can only imagine how exhausting some of that work is, because it's very tedious, it's very ambiguous. It seems like it's a moving goalpost a lot of the time. So still being committed to doing the work is just so vital to our community. So thank you and thank others who are doing that work. And we send you positive energy and vibes to keep y'all uplifted as you're doing the work, because I mean, in a lot of spaces you are fighting the good fight that so many of us maybe are fighting at different angles. So hopefully things can continue to progress and get better on that side. But appreciate that very cohesive explanation there of some of the experiences as a employer working within employer relations, as well as some of the skills there. Now, question on programs and associations, thinking through your journey, whether it's an individual who's aspiring to enter into the higher education space, aspiring to enter into employer relations, when you think about the organizations you've been a part of, are there any that come to mind that may aid others in their professional development, that helps them get into closer proximity to some of the work that you have done and work that you are doing? What comes to mind for things that you would tell people, give this a thought of joining?
Yeah, definitely. So from the student perspective, I would say it's really important to get plugged in if you're looking to get into higher ed, right? Get plugged in with a mentor on your campus that is already doing the profession you want to be in, whether it's in career services, in housing and residence life, or in student activities. When it comes to that student affairs realm,
Mm,
there's so many opportunities that exist with getting a mentor, right? That mentor-mentee relationship that you establish could open many doors for you after graduation. Let's say you want a recommendation letter to get into grad school, into this higher ed program you're wanting to,
mhm.
receive that opportunity. You can reach out to that mentor you've had a rapport with from your freshman year to your senior year.
Yeah.
From that student perspective is really important. And then there's this really dope group called the National Association of Colleges and Employers, NACE. So
Mm,
NACE recently established the student member portal for students who are wanting to potentially become, college, higher ed, and professionals, right? So being a part of NACE will afford you an opportunity to attend conferences, attend different workshops at these conferences, as well as gain certification that could potentially propel you to enter into higher ed, um, receiving valuable nuggets and also accessing a new network of higher ed professionals that could potentially lead to you getting a job, let's say, at any institution, whether it's an HBCU or PWI. I would
yeah.
say start there from that student level. And then when you're in grad school, there's tons of different fellowships that exist at your university. If you're looking to become a grad assistant, you can do some of those learning opportunities in whatever space that you're in. You can do that, and they're readily available for you. You just have to apply yourself. So those are the two spaces I know of.
I love that. I love that. You actually just inspired me to do something a little different for some of the episodes. I'm thinking about having some of those links available for people in the description, because I had never heard of NACE. And I think that was probably one of the few times there's been like a org that I haven't heard of, when I have guests on talking about different things that people can join. So I think that kind of inspired me. I want to make sure you guys are able to access some of this information. Hopefully you all are kind of being able to take a look at some of this from when people mention it, but want to make it just one step easier for you, just in the pursuit of sharing as much information and knowledge as possible. So that's really interesting that NACE exists. That sounds super cool, and hopefully people are able to take advantage of that. Now I have a question about the backgrounds that people have in higher education, in terms of, what have you seen from your peers and coworkers, from what their undergraduate degrees are in, if they have degrees, whether they, do or don't. How would you describe the diversity of backgrounds that people possess in the higher education space? Hopefully, being able to highlight for folks, here's maybe the background you need to go pursue in undergrad, or any type of credentials you need to get in order to enter into the higher education space, or to simply just say, hey, you have a lot of different routes you can take.
Yeah, when it comes to a set degree, there's no set degree for higher ed, right?
Okay.
That is, unless you're trying to, well, I'll come back to that. So when it comes to your degree, I feel like from what I've seen, me being a political science major and, entering into higher ed, as long as you have transferable skills and you're
Mm,
cultivating these skills that will get you into the door for an interview, that's what you need to focus on, right? I've seen folks who have a poli sci degree, folks who have an English degree, folks who on the master's level they have an MBA or a master's in, let's say, DEI work, right?
mhm,
Whatever that looks like, they're in student affairs or they're doing something on like the level of working in academics on the academic affairs side. They're either crafting policies or working on curriculum, right? Curriculum development or working on the first year experience for incoming freshmen. So the possibilities are endless. You don't have to have a set degree to get your foot in the door, but if you have those transferable skills that you've been building on after receiving internships, within your matriculation leading up to graduation, those skills that you gain, those little nuggets that you are able to gain along the way will get your foot in the door. Like for me, um, I would say having the network and having people who are on that interview committee notice the work that I've done and how I am a credible individual. It speaks volumes, right? We're able to apply a new lens, a fresh perspective into what higher ed needs to look like because higher ed is a business. It's not
mhm,
just where students come to get their degrees, but the students are the consumers. So they have to run a well-oiled machine. And if you're able to add value to this entity, they will welcome you with open arms. So it's
mm.
really the possibilities are endless. You don't have to have a set degree to get in the door.
That's a bar. That's a bar right there. That is a bar. I've never heard students referred to as consumers, and maybe it's more because you're more recently a student. You have that nice overlap of identifying what it's like to be a student. And shout out to all the HBCUs, man. I feel like all HBCU students, we always have fun picking and prodding at our university. Just because everything isn't perfect, but the love that we have for our institutions is bar none at all, man. So I think that is really powerful, and I hope that more HBCUs and universities alike have employers who feel exactly how you mentioned, that the students are consumers, the students are vital, who are passionate about the students on campus, because that is what makes our university so powerful, so uh, such change makers. It's from having people who are pouring into our students like yourself, who have that type of understanding and viewpoint on the student body. So I think that's really cool. Well, you've poured a lot of gems into the listeners and viewers, man. I'm curious, what gems would you pour back into yourself if you could go back to being an undergrad to better prepare yourself for your current role, for life, the workforce at large? What's top of mind for the advice that you would give yourself?
I would say always be prepared for the unexpected, right? Um, it's really important when you are in spaces where you've never expected to be in, you have to be prepared for it, right? Whatever comes
Mhm.
your way, be able to apply that same tenacious energy where you're wanting to get to the top. You're hungry in the space that you're in. So just being prepared for the unexpected. I didn't expect to end up in higher ed, but the experiences that I've had over time prepared me for this exact moment. And I just had to get used to that. I think for someone who is a type A personality, someone who is always wanting to follow said script, that goes out the window when, let's say the 5-year plan you have for yourself is different from what you've now been doing in practice. So just be
Mhm.
prepared for whatever that comes your way and know that you are exactly where you need to be. You're planted exactly where you need to be because it's a moment of transition, right? It's a transitional space. You'll be in at every phase of your life, but you have to be prepared for it and rise to the occasion and not shut away or shy away from whatever is seen as being unexpected, right? So
I
yeah.
love it. I love that. I love that. Well, question about higher education for people who are aspiring to enter into higher education, for people who are new to higher education, but maybe they don't know a lot about it. How would you describe the opportunities for upward mobility within higher education? How would you describe that landscape? And what do you think is really critical for people to understand about higher education before they enter into it and what's waiting for them on the other side?
That's a good question. I will say, being so taking a step back. So when I was a student, I was in student leadership, heavily involved on campus. But now being outside of that student leadership role and not being a student any longer at my alma
Mhm.
mater, and I can say this for other higher ed institutions, everything is lined up to be a political play, right? It's not about what you know, it's all about who you know most of the time. And that's just how the world, runs. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, one thing I will say is higher ed, you're in a space where if you're looking to progress, being at an entity for I don't know how many years, if you do not have that master's or that PhD that can justify you moving up the ladder, um, it's not going to take place, right? So you have to be able to be okay with leaving this space that you've now outgrown to go to another institution to progress. Because a lot of times we'll see if someone's been an employee that's a loyal employee for 10, 20 plus years, but you're saying, wow, why do I keep missing out on these opportunities? I have all of these things and then some. I have all the credentials, I have the masters, you name it, but I'm not seeing an opening to go up the ladder, right?
Okay.
There's a reason for it because the way it's set up, higher ed is all about playing the game of who knows who. And if your name is mentioned enough in a room, you might get tapped, right? But how long will that take until you're tapped on the shoulder to say, hey, it's your time to go up to the next position? So you
Yeah.
have to be okay with pivoting. I've seen a lot of my friends who've been in higher ed before I arrived to the space. They said it's all about politics, right? And I never
Mhm.
really understood it until I got into this space. A lot of them spent many years at an institution and felt like, I'm giving my all, but I'm not receiving the recognition, the ability to move. So they had to up and move out. And now they're in better paying roles at different institutions because they've been okay with moving on. I think as a higher ed professional, you can't be so okay with being just stagnant or in just one space. You have to be
Yeah.
willing to move and pivot wherever the wind blows, go there. If it's at an institution that you didn't really want to live in, let's say a state that you didn't see to be all too appealing, but if you want to progress, you got to go that way. So you have to be willing to do that.
Now, tell me this. This is a follow-up question. I didn't really plan for this gem being shared that you've already shared about kind of the political nature of higher education. What's your reaction to hearing the thought that a political environment such as higher education should not intimidate or deter people from entering into that space just because it is political? Because I think that there is a negative connotation behind if something's political, people tend to want to stay away from that. And through my experiences, I feel that in a lot of situations, it could be a little bit negative if you have a political environment, but it's also a positive because it can be an asset. Or if you know how to quote unquote play the game, or if you know how to land in a certain culture and maximize your opportunities and the relationships that you have, it's something that for some you shouldn't be scared of, but you should seek to understand what the political nature of the environment you're entering into to see how you can best navigate it. But you're actually in a space. Who cares what I know? What would you say to all of that? What's been your experience?
Well, I would say it's everywhere you go, you're going to find some type of political structure that's set up, right?
That's right.
Um, and it takes you getting out of your own way to be okay with that.
Mhm.
Because if you're not okay with that uncomfortability, right? Everybody doesn't like politics and how things are set up in the structure, right? But you have to be able to play the game. And once you come in with that mindset of, you know what, I'm here to play the game. But if the game is not serving you, then you have to flip it to where it's
Mhm.
serving you. And being in this space, I've been able to flip it to where it serves me, right? Making the connections, making sure I'm in rooms that matter, right? Making sure I'm in spaces where I can make impact happen, to
Yeah.
where it's okay, this individual, though they're new to higher ed, they're thinking on trend with where the university needs to be headed. So constantly revamping yourself, having conversations with people who've been in higher ed, people who are have been in there for many years. They can give you a new perspective, give you a lot of things to think about.
Mhm.
Because if you're not constantly having conversations and trying to evolve, you're going to get stuck and you're going to get frustrated. So instead of, saying, well, I don't want to play the game, that's not me.
Yep.
If you don't play the game, how are you going to win? Like the pieces, all of it's there in front of you. You just have to know what pieces you need to move, what levers you need to
Mhm.
move to work it in your favor. And if you're able to do that by having people to talk to bounce ideas off of, people who've been in higher ed, who have the experience and have like been in your shoes before, they help you way more than someone who might be outside of higher ed, who will just say, well, just give up and come this way, or like leave higher ed and shut the door and come to work at a company that's not like that. You're going to encounter the same thing at that
Yep.
next company. So you just have to be able to adapt and play the game and
Right.
not shy away from it.
Don't run from it, y'all. Don't run from it because it's gonna catch up with you eventually.
Yeah,
You're going to reach a certain point of seniority, a certain point of I want more money, I have more aspirations in my personal life where you're going to be like, okay, I want to go for this next promo. Like you'll need to play the game to get that next promotion. Some places the game is different. Some places it is truly your work output. How well do you do quality work? And that can be 85% where it goes into your eval or the opportunities that reveal themselves to you. Other places, heck, that might be 25%. So I think it's best to become comfortable with politics, of navigating a new work environment. And if politics freaks you out, like, okay, don't use the word politics. The game is the game, regardless. You still got the same stuff you got to do:
exactly.
relationship building, being able to evolve as a person and adapt to a new culture, different leadership styles. Be adaptable and flexible within different pockets of power that exist. And there are different books. I think I have a book actually to put people onto that touches on that. Up here, this book is called Survival of the Savvy: High Integrity Political Tactics for Career and Company Success, making y'all think a boy be reading some. I don't have a whole bunch of time to read as much as I like these days, but actually on that topic, that is a really good book that essentially touches on people are really scared of politics, but it's really a tool. It's an asset for you to achieve what you want to achieve. If y'all don't want to do politics and y'all are good, I'm good where y'all are good. If you love it, if you like it, I love it. But for those who maybe find a little friction, a little anxiety around some of that networking, some of that politics. Like, I care for you and I want you to be able to transcend that hurdle that you face mentally in that regard. So, through mentorship, through different resources you may be able to find, hopefully, you're able to find um, methods that work for your personality because I want y'all to have the tools that serve you. And I'm telling you, politics, relationship building, networking serves you. So, use those tools. Don't let the tools use you. All right. Okay, that was beautiful, man. Well, we have our last segment here called Three Piece. It's food inspired. You're in North Carolina. I know they got three pieces of this, three pieces of that. Shout out to Cookout. You feel me? I went to school in Alabama, so we had some, but I think my first time having Cookout, I don't even know where I was, but I think I remember someone who was in Virginia, and they were just saying on the East Coast, it's a lot of cookouts out there. So I'm sure you can get a three piece of this and that at Cookout, man. But on the career conversation, I need a three-piece from you. What are three words you would use to describe your career journey thus far?
Wow. First and foremost, ordained by God. That's
Okay.
one word, ordained. Um, Definitely, I would say it's also been a story of adaptation. So being able to adapt, um, and then just resilience overall. That's been
Mm.
my overall story: adaptation, ordained, and being able to adapt.
I love that. I love that. That sounds like a powerful combination, man. That resilience is super important. I also identify with those as well. The adaptation is giving crazy work out here to all the opportunities. I know you out here playing hopscotch. Pick them. You pick them. But of course, you're working tremendously to put yourself in that position. So I appreciate you sharing those few words, man. Well, now I want to ask you, understanding kind of how you view your career journey thus far, um, how would you describe where you see yourself in the next year or two?
Well, in the next year or two, hopefully by year one, I'll be halfway done with my program. Right now, I'm pursuing a master's in public administration. Concentration is going to be in urban management and policy. Still keeping that policy cap
Yeah.
and wanting to do more to affect change within my community. So, within that second year, I'll be getting ready for graduation.
Hmm.
It is my hope to enter into federal government, working for the State Department, hopefully within that realm, working on strengthening what diplomacy looks like for America and leading, in some shape or form in that space to
Yeah.
helping developing nations, meaning that I am a product of a developing nation, an immigrant, a proud immigrant. I want to be able to contribute to that space, and who knows where we'll go from there. But I'm hopeful that it
Man,
will.
I gotta tell you, you trying to go into the public service area. You got a little bit too much drip to be trying to work into that space, man. I ain't seen how you put some of that stuff on, bro. You can't be dripped up like that trying to pass policies. You feel?
All
Yeah, I love it. No, man, definitely.
right.
Definitely excited to see you in the space. I know you'll do some amazing work, and I look forward to keeping up with that work that you do, man. You've really poured into the audience here at One Fourth Careers Podcast. You really shared so many gems. You've used all of the diligent experiences that you've gained to convey what you've learned across so many different areas. Um, in this work of you connecting with the audience, what are some ways that the audience can connect with you as well, Will?
Yeah, first spot to connect with me is definitely LinkedIn. Always looking for new connections and building new relationships. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn at William Gibson. I am always looking for new connections, and then definitely open to asking, or not asking, but answering any questions you all might have if you're interested in entering into higher ed. I can be a connector of some sorts and sharing some different, groups with you. Always open to doing that. But that's the first place I would say we can connect. Look forward to these new connections and learning more about y'all.
An amazing, amazing resource to have. So, for any of you who are driven out there, definitely recommend you hit up Will. He has a plethora of knowledge to share. Come correct now. It's a part of networking. Brand is everything, first impressions, but an amazing person to get to know. Last question I have for you, Will. Is there anything else that is top of mind for you? Any last advice you can share with viewers and listeners here on the pod?
Yeah, I think like this whole thing that I want to leave with after this conversation is just being able to adapt, right? Expecting the unexpected. A lot of you might be in different spaces in your journey of life, whether
Mhm.
it's you're getting ready to enter college, or you're getting ready to leave college and enter into corporate, or you're in deep in your career 5 years in and you're looking for a pivot. Just be prepared to do the work, right? Be hungry, wake up every day knowing that the work that you're doing, it's not it's never going to be undervalued, right? By you have to just be able to affirm yourself, stay planted, stay grounded wherever you are. As a college student, keep being open to learning and taking on new opportunities, being invested in taking on an internship, building a connection with someone on campus that can lead to you getting a job offer, being because you're just simply plugged in. And then for someone who's getting ready to transition into corporate America, create yourself a board of directors. Talk to
Mm.
someone who is a seasoned individual in that space you're entering into and add them to your board of directors because they can help you get up the ladder way quicker than someone who's also 2, 3 years in their corporate career, but also be open to taking on leadership when that opportunity presents itself. Because when you take up opportunities like leadership in your organization, that puts an even more visible light on you to where it can lead to your names being in rooms you never expected for it to be in. And then lastly, for someone who's 5, 10 years in their career, we're looking for a pivot, do it and do it afraid, right? Because if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. So
Yeah.
be open to doing that work and being just tenacious, being able to see yourself as the underdog, because when you're the underdog, you're overlooked, but you can't overlook someone who's hungry. So keep applying that pressure.
But he's not a rapper. I don't know. Maybe he is. Keep bringing the bars, man. That is a rap, bro. I appreciate you so much for coming on to the pod and sharing the knowledge, imparting so much wisdom on people. I give you your flowers for being such a productive person out here in the world, being so adaptable, being so resilient. I'm sure you've had so many opportunities to quit, but the hunger that you've displayed through your journey is very inspiring. And I know that you've reached and touched a lot of mentees who have learned from you. And I hope that you get out of what you put into the pod here today. So I look forward to having a lot of views on this episode, just like every episode, because it shows one person who is potentially being benefited from the knowledge that's being shared here. So I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Yeah, thank you so much for this platform. I think it's amazing what you're doing, and I look forward to tuning into future episodes.
Yes, sir. All right, my guy. I'll talk to you later. Peace out.
Peace.
All right, folks, another amazing episode. Thank you so much for stopping by again. I hope this information was compelling for you. I hope the storytelling that Will mentioned is a really much needed skill. Hopefully, you benefited from his amazing storytelling of taking you through his journey, through the career that he is progressing through. And we wish him a lot of amazing success with him still grinding as we speak, being in school, being productive at his HBCU campus, and where he goes from there to impact communities that matter most to him. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what career you want to see next. Thank you all so much for being here. Much love to you. And as always, stay happy, stay blessed. Peace, family.